object the amendments made by Senate, and I do support the report as presented and as amended and presented by the Leader of Majority. I do support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Those who are on the screen, like Ndindi Nyoro, Johanna Ngeno, John Gitonga, you are all for appropriations. Now the mover should be called upon to reply. Majority Leader, you may now reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And let me thank the few members who have contributed and commit that we will, upon rejection of the amendments from the Senate, and I want to beg that members do vote to reject, we will immediately constitute a mediation committee to be able to consider this bill and amendments afresh. I therefore beg to reply.
Order, members, take your seats. Members on their feet, Sabina Chege, take your seat. Order, Sabina Chege, take a seat. Wamshomba, take your seat. Pasaris, take your seat. Honorable members, I now put the question, and those who vote yes will be supporting the amendments from the Senate, and those who vote no will be rejecting. I now put the question, which is that the Senate amendments to the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023 be now considered. As members of that opinion say aye. As members of the contrary opinion say nay. The nays have it. Go back to order number 9.
Order number 9, motion, consideration of the first supplementary estimates for the financial year 2024-2025 general debate.
Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, you are the mover, right? Okay. Johanna Ngeno, you are not ready. John Gitonga.
Thank you, Speaker.
Yeah. Are you ready to speak?
Okay. Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I want to thank you for this opportunity also to contribute on this budget, supplementary budget. Speaker, we have realized that there has been difficulties in the country, Mr. Speaker, and this prompted the withdrawal of the finance bill, which was meant to finance to some extent some of the expenditures in our budget, Speaker, and therefore there had to be some austerity measures and some changes to accommodate the much we can collect. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the chair for budget for sitting and looking into the issues that we had tabled before the committee. And Speaker, I want to say that as a committee for housing, we factored in, of course, Mr. Speaker, the issues, the needs, which, of course, the people of this country were expecting to appear in that particular supplementary budget. Speaker, we want also to understand that this supplementary budget will have a lot of constraints, and, of course, there are so many shortfalls, and especially on funding some vital projects and programs. Mr. Speaker, I particularly, the State Department for Public Works was majorly affected, Mr. Speaker. And remember, this is a very vital organ, especially on inspecting and monitoring and evaluating all the projects which are done in the country, Mr. Speaker. But most importantly, remember the rain that ravaged the country, Mr. Speaker, carried so many food breaches which had been done to allow students cross over to the other areas, to allow even women who are crossing to the other areas for markets, carrying their products. Mr. Speaker, we had, or the State Department had requested for the construction of the food bridges to allow these crossovers. But Mr. Speaker, due to the fall of the finance bill, Mr. Speaker, the whole budget which was allocating these particular activities was completely down. Mr. Speaker, the budget also has given breadth to the employment permanently of the GSS teachers. Remember, Mr. Speaker, we still have a very big and a huge challenge on the issue of JSS, on the issue of our classrooms. Mr. Speaker, this CBC was introduced without considering so many factors. Now it is a baby that we have to nurture. It is something that we have to deal with. It is a matter that we cannot throw it out of the window, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, when this budget was cut, the president looked into whether we are going to throw out the JSS teachers, because that was a very big challenge. But in his wisdom and the wisdom of the budget committee, they have managed to allocate good funds to ensure that we have all these JSS teachers employed and be placed under permanent employment. Mr. Speaker, remember this is a very vital area. We also ensure that the CBA, collective bargaining agreement, is considered. And this is a very vital thing, which of course will also give our teachers our teachers comfort, because you know, Mr. Speaker, the foundation of this country is based on education. And just like what somebody said, or a very great person one day said, and education is an equalizer. It is a factor that equalizes all the rich and the poor. They put them in the same pool, Mr. Speaker. So this budget is considering majorly and putting into serious consideration on matters of education, because that is one area that we consider as very fundamental. Mr. Speaker, we know even the roads, we know the electricity, the energy, the Ministry of Energy, most of the issues were cut. But Mr. Speaker, most importantly, now that from the mood of the communication you just sent to this House, Mr. Speaker, you read to this House, Mr. Speaker, where most of the nominees to the cabinet are now from the opposition side, Mr. Speaker. I hope it is now going to bring harmony in this House and especially in the country, so that whatever business we are going to be transacting in this House will sail through. And I'm taking this opportunity to welcome members of the opposition now that they are part of government, to help this country to stabilize. And I know the reason why we had that particular move, Mr. Speaker, is to allow this country to have stability, allow this country to move forward, allow this country to focus, allow this country to actually ensure that all the issues, all the projects which have been slated are properly delivered and done. And even as we are passing this supplementary budget one, Mr. Speaker, I wish, as a word of caution, Mr. Speaker, we have seen, even in our committees when we were trying to pass some of the proposals by the state departments, we wanted to ensure that most of the monies, because, Mr. Speaker, where we are collecting this money, the people of the Republic who we are taxing to get this money are going through a lot of pain. So our major request and demand by this House, Mr. Speaker, is that any money allocated for majorly projects, Mr. Speaker, should be utilized on projects, and especially projects, Mr. Speaker, which bring development to our people and to the people of this Republic. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that we will, as much as possible, try to cut some of the expenditures. But most importantly, Mr. Speaker, the cuts which have been placed on development areas, Mr. Speaker, the little that has remained must be properly utilized. And now that we are having almost a new cabinet, though some of them are the same old faces, but we are having almost a new cabinet. We want to ask the members of the cabinet who are coming in, where especially if they were to be passed or vetted and passed in this House, Mr. Speaker, that it is time to work for this country. It is no time to work for yourself. This is no time to reap. This is no time to steal. This is no time to waste. These are monies which we collect painfully from the people of this Republic. So even as we are going to vet these particular cabinet secretaries whose names have been forwarded to this House, Mr. Speaker, our core mandate as this House is to ensure that we vet and pass members of the cabinet who we know their background has nothing to do with corruption. And if they pass that test, Mr. Speaker, we hope they are going to deliver to this nation. They are going to build this nation. They are going to work hard, just like what the president is trying to do, so that we don't look back and say, these are the people who failed this country. So each one of us has a responsibility. As a House, we have the responsibility. As a cabinet, they have the responsibility. As a president, also has the responsibility to ensure that whatever money we appropriate in this House, Mr. Speaker, that whatever money we tax the people of this country, Mr. Speaker, and put in the budget must be properly utilized without corruption, without stealing. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Nairobi Women Rep. Oh, you are not ready. Oh, Rosa Buyu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, in supporting the supplementary that we've just had, I would like to thank the Gen Zs for giving us the opportunity to relook at that budget. Mr. Speaker, I actually support, because when you look at what has been presented now, there's a lot of austerity measures that's been put in place, which means that money is going to go to good use. Mr. Speaker, however, I would like to say that there's still opportunity to better that budget by looking at duplication in different ministries. Mr. Speaker, when that is realigned, I'm sure the budget will even be lower. But Mr. Speaker, this afternoon, as a woman who has been on the forefront in the women's movement, I want to take this opportunity as a key member of ODM and Azimio. I want to take this opportunity to announce the new leader of minority, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo Mabona. Mr. Speaker, nobody should tell me that I have no authority to do that. I've been in ODM since its inception from 2005. And I've seen women be so loyal to this party called ODM. I've seen women be on the forefront of Azimio. And it is time that a woman is given an opportunity to lead this party in the House. Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking of a woman who's distinguished in terms of her contribution.
Yes, order. There's a point of order. Yes, Kamket. What's your point of order? Yes, Kamket.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
I'm standing on standing order number 91, and also on relevance, and also, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is is anticipating debate, because there is no motion in this House, Mr. Speaker, about any appointment. There is no motion on this floor about any appointment of anyone to anywhere. And from the experience, Mr. Speaker, from our own experience yesterday, we now know that what is announced outside,
What is your point of order?
there on two matters. Is she in order, Mr. Speaker, for the honorable lady to anticipate debate? And two, is she relevant in what she's saying? What she's saying relevant to the debate on supplementary?
Continue.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not preempting any debate. I'm not talking about any cabinet minister, but I'm talking about a seat that seems to be vacant, and I'm talking about a distinguished member of this National Assembly. I'm talking about a woman who is serving her 4th term, and a woman who's distinguished in debates in this House. I'm talking about a distinguished lawyer, and I'm talking about a distinguished human rights defender. And I'm saying it is time for Millie Odhiambo Mabona to take the leadership of minority. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable lady members. I know you are operating within the exuberance of feminism, but your wailing in the House is out of order. Next, we have John Gitonga. Is he here? You know, some of you key in and then leave. Is he here? No. Kiarie?
Mr. Speaker, it's a great honor to be contributing to this motion on supplementary budget. And as I speak chairing the Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation. And Mr. Speaker, yes, we have been given an opportunity to look at the budget. We in the sector are actually running into a big problem, even with the budget cuts that are happening. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the trend of how the cuts were done at Treasury, they were targeted on certain issues. In the attempt to implement austerity measures, the area of communication is greatly affected across board. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, there are ministries and departments and agencies in these governments whose sole responsibility is communication, Mr. Speaker. For example, there is the Department of Broadcast and Telecommunication. In the blanket cuts, this department has been left with a situation where we might go for an entire year where they are only able to pay salaries but not conduct any developmental issue, being that their core business is communication, in such a way that if blanket cuts are done across board, affecting communication, their core business is greatly affected. Mr. Speaker, I do support the supplementary budget as we have done. However, Mr. Speaker, it must be said in this parliament that Treasury ought to change its budgeting regime and the way that it does budgeting. Mr. Speaker, Treasury in this country has budgeted for ministries and departments in the same way as it has since 1963, so that sectors that have traditionally enjoyed big budgets continue to enjoy inordinately bigger budgets. The traditional sectors that are capital intensive, that are infrastructure intensive, have continually enjoyed big budgets, budgets that probably are even budgeted for corruption, Mr. Speaker. Emergent sectors, Mr. Speaker, like the sector of telecommunication, the sector of innovation, the sector of information, some of which were small departments in traditional bigger sectors. For example, the sector of ICT and digital economy was traditionally a small department within energy. In Treasury, to their mind, ICT and digital economy still remains, in their mind, a small department within energy. But if you look at the bottom-up economic transformational agenda, if you look at Marshall plans like the Kenya Superhighway, Digital Superhighway program, if you look at Vision 2030, emerging sectors like ICT and the digital economy might be the place where we find a solution for the issues that are being canvassed, even the issues that are being canvassed by the Gen Z on the streets. They are talking about youth engagement. They are talking about employment. This employment will not come from the bigger sectors. It will not come from corporate Kenya. These youth will be meaningfully engaged if members in this house are able to institute digital innovation hubs in each and every ward of this country. It will happen when we are able to make connectivity, get to places like Wajir and Mandera and the other far-flung places in this country. These opportunities will be available when our young people are able to get digital online jobs, where they are able to go to a digital innovation hub in their village and they are able to be paid in dollars. But Mr. Speaker, that is the case we find ourselves in, where Treasury is still budgeting in the way they used to budget in the 60s. Mr. Speaker, our sector in the ICT and digital economy has proven that if you invest 1 shilling, you're going to reap 5 shillings out of that investment. So what we are decrying here, Mr. Speaker, I do stand up as a village crier, saying that even as we prosecute these budgets, Parliament will have to apply itself better so that we can remedy the ills that are coming from Treasury, which are traditionally budgeting in a way that does not benefit us and does not drive us in the way of solving some of the problems that the young people are telling us. So, Mr. Speaker, I do support the consideration of this first supplementary budget, and I do laud the members of the Digital Economy Committee, up to and including the Honorable Dr. Bensouda, who I see here, because they applied themselves well in this supplementary budget to be able to remedy some of those ills that we picked out that were occasioned by the way that Treasury is budgeting for this country. And I want to laud these members of our ICT committee and remind you that in the absence of a committee of the future in this jurisdiction, the Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation is actually the committee of the future. And we shall take our rightful place as Parliament so that we budget as is required by the Constitution, where budgeting happens on this floor in this House. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I do support.
Zamzam, you are on the... Oh, is that... Who is the member at the end? Mwalio. Honorable Mwalio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to stand to support the supplementary one estimates and be able to hear some grievances that the supplementary budget has created. In this supplementary, then the cuts that we have been able to cut, we have been able to remove entirely majority of the development funds in many sectors and also the ministries. And what we are doing by so doing is that we are taking people out of business and also creating unemployment. Because if there is no development, it means that the contractors that have been able to be given some contracting, they have been able to win some tenders, and they have been able to do some works. They are going to have pending bills, and also they are going to lay down the workers that have been employed and engaged in those contracts. Therefore, it is very important to think out of the box, to be able to at least to keep some little money in a development instead of removing all the 100% development funds, because it is going to take people to the streets without any employment. If you see the building sector, whereby the contractors normally engage with the government, because the government is the biggest employer of all the contractors, then those workers are going to be left with any job because there is nothing for development for this year. Number two, in our Committee of Trade, Industry, and the Cooperatives, we had checked whereby we can take out money and put whereby we can create some employment in some EPZ, SEZ, in the river tax, in the new KCC, whereby we were creating some jobs for the Kenyans. Because the Gen Zs are crying because there is no employment. So let us think to be able to be conscious to create some employment so that we can accommodate some of our young people that are in the streets every day. So we will be able to maybe to make some amendments in the third reading so that we can be able to create some room even for some people to create some employment somewhere so that these young people can be engaged in some of the developments that are going on. We were told that in the EPZ, they are all lined up of investors who are coming up to invest in those sheds. And those sheds, the money has been removed. So we will not be able to create any employment, and also the investors will find there is nothing, no infrastructure that has been done for them to be able to engage in a meaningful manufacturing, in a meaningful engagement with the government. So let us think twice as we remove and we make the future budgets, so that our goal should be more so by creating employment. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Wamshomba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to give my opinion on the debate concerning the budget estimates that have been tabled. And I want to, first of all, thank the young people of Kenya, because it is because of them that they have given us an opportunity to review these budget estimates and relook at areas where we can be able to reduce our expenditure and plan our money economy in a better way. Mr. Speaker, whereas I support the intentional move by the Budget Committee to allocate more funds in areas where the young people of Kenya may benefit through jobs creation, and more specifically, when I talk about job creation, I'm talking about the value addition areas and processing that has been given more attention and allocated more money. The school feeding program that has been able to be given 3 billion shillings. That is a positive move, Mr. Speaker. The intentional move to add more resources to TVETs and Kenya medical training colleges so that we can accommodate more of our young people into the training. And the intentional move to add more money in value addition projects like the ultra-modern fish processing plant in Liwatoni, and many other value